it was just not good. It was like a lot of compounding issues. And honestly, it started with COVID, you know. Lockdowns happen. Right at the start of COVID, I get diagnosed with all this shit. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. All right, this is perfect. The world is shut down. I can't do my job. So this is the perfect time for me to spend in recovery when no one can do anything, right? Next thing you know, they shut down all treatments. And my treatment was all like non-essential treatments. And for some reason, my fucking surgery that I need to stay alive is voluntary, or it was classed in the cosmetic/voluntary thing, because a lot of people get this surgery that I'm getting for cosmetic reasons because it will make you look a lot better. Can I just say, don't fucking do this shit unless you need it. All right? You don't need to go up 2 points on the attractiveness unless you're horrifically deformed. But if you're so deformed that you need this surgery, you probably can't breathe, like me. Maybe even worse, all right? If you're doing this, if you want to get this surgery that I've just gone through and then the next one after, just to look hotter, dear God, it's not fucking worth it, all right? The only thing that's keeping me going is how fucking horrible I feel every day. And knowing that I won't feel like this on the other side of it. I'm just picturing myself as like, if I was a person who was like just doing this to look hotter, the amount of fucking regret and anger at myself I would have right now in the middle of it would be obscene. If you're just wanting to look hotter, don't fucking do that. Well, you know what? It depends how good I look at the end of it. Maybe if I look really good, I'll change my mind. If I get to the other end of it and I look like fucking James Bond, I'll be like, you know what? It was worth it. I don't know what it's like to live life as a hot person. Maybe it's worth it. You know, I'm just like a 6 with really good height. So sometimes I go to 7 or an 8, depending on the girl's mental illness. So I don't really know what it's like to live life as like a 9 or a 10. You know, maybe on the other side of that, when I start reaping the benefits of being like super fuckable, I might go, you know what? All that pain that I went through, totally worth it. So I'll reserve judgment. But right now, in the middle of it, I'm only being pushed forward by how awful I feel right now. So yeah, so COVID happened was obviously fucking horrible for everyone, but you know, particularly horrible for people who lived in Melbourne. We got the worst in the world other than fucking China, as far as I'm aware of. But also terrible because it's shut down my dream. 2019, I'm fucking hanging out with Andrew Schultz in New York, and then in LA, I'm hanging out with Joe Rogan. And then I haven't been able to be a fucking comedian for more than 4 months since. Crazy, right? Just compounding things. So all through COVID, blah, 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 lockdown was horrible for me, all that kind of shit. We all know it. We all went through it. Unless you live in fucking Miami. You guys had a lot of fun, didn't you? But also your grandparents are dead. It's a trade-off. Get through all of that, and then COVID ends, and I'm like, oh my God, I can finally live my life and break out of COVID. I got to go through my own little mini lockdown with my shit. It's like I feel like I'm stuck in COVID again I feel like it's worse because everyone else gets to do their shit and live their dream and move forward and succeed. And I just have to sit there and watch like some fucking sad comedy cuck. You know, so everything starts to fucking fall apart. Plus my sleep apnea and shit got so much worse because something that should have been treated in like early 2020 has been left until 2023. Right, 3 years of it getting slowly worse and worse and worse and worse. You know, man, so many fucking horrible things happened since then. It was COVID, and then this wasn't a horrible thing. It was a very stressful thing. We started fostering a kid, my girl's little brother, and that has its own like challenges, obviously, because you foster a kid because they need to be fostered, right? So you don't get like a brand new baby that's nothing's happened. You're fostering a child, and you got to work through all of that. And I just can't. I know I can't go into details because it's very personal. But you know, you can imagine, right? You're fostering a kid. You can imagine, okay? And that's amazing, and that's very, very rewarding. And you see the benefits of that. And he's doing so much better, which is amazing. And I'm very proud of him. But getting to that point together, so difficult. And then I do the comedy festival. And That was great, but then I fucking got this surgery and that was horrible, and everything took a giant downturn, and I listened to the doctors, and the doctor said, oh, you'll be back to work in 2 months. And that's true if you guys need the surgery, anyone listening. That is true if you have just about any job, even a physical manual labor job. After 2 months, I could have lifted shit, moved stuff around, all that. I could work in an office. I could do this. I could do that. If your job is speaking, you can't go back to work in 2 months, or you can, but you can't do it well, as you guys saw. You know, like, fuck, man, speaking was so difficult, and it was painful, and it sounded awful. Go and listen to a little bit of the last podcast I did, 286. That was when I was really, really good at speaking with the spacer in my mouth. It sounds weird. It sounds like I got food in my mouth. And as good as I got at sounding, it never got easier. It was almost more difficult to put so much effort into speaking clearly like I am now. It feels easy now. The braces make it a little bit annoying, but if it's, for the most part, it's easy. To speak clearly with all that shit in my mouth was so fucking hard and difficult that I couldn't do podcasts without having to basically take the whole day off. It was exhausting. And then I lost my dog. I lost, not Bobby, she's fine. My dog that I grew up with, my family dog, Olive, I lost her, and it fucking destroyed me. It fucking ruined, I don't know what it was. It was just like the final straw, and it really hurt me. It was, I actually took a whole week off work, and I went and spent a week with her. It was beautiful. I cooked her food, and I took her to places she hadn't been for ages, and I made sure she was comfortable and all this kind of stuff. And then we let her go. And that was beautiful. But man, it was like the last thing that really, really broke me. And I don't think I got over it I feel like I'm only just now starting to process it, and all of those memories, whether returning to happy memories again instead of horrible, sad things of like the beautiful time I got to spend with her rather than this horrible, awful thing. Sorry. And that happened, and that really hurt. And then I had to do this fucking tour, which I loved the tour. The shows were amazing, and I'll be posting clips of it soon. Because the shows were so good, and the crowd work was amazing, and the feedback afterwards was brilliant. I actually love doing smaller shows, more shows, but smaller audiences. So I performed to pretty much the same amount of people as my last tour, but I got to do more shows, which was amazing because I filmed more clips, but it was probably the wrong call for my health because it meant so much more work. I was doing 2 shows a night. Those shows would often go for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours each. And by the end of that late show, some of those shows, I would get off stage and my mouth will be bleeding. And after that, I then have to meet everyone, which I love doing, obviously, but it's such an effort. Because I got to fucking remember all the people that annoyed me. While all that shit was happening, from COVID until 4 months ago, I was just ignoring how unbelievably sick that I am. My sleep apnea and my not sleeping and my chronic fatigue and falling asleep during the day and not being able to remember things and all that kind of shit. I was, even now I was just reading again, like symptoms of sleep apnea, because I just haven't really looked at it for a while. And I've just been looking at going, do I have any extra ones? And like a huge, huge symptom, one of the most common ones is like anxiety and depression, because your brain, when you sleep, kind of replenishes serotonin and dopamine. And if you don't do that, you cannot feel happy. It's impossible. It's like a lot of people that are like clinically depressed. Their brain doesn't produce that chemical. It doesn't matter how many amazing, cool things they do. They can help that, but they can't fix it. That's when medicine comes in. And that's essentially how I've been fucking feeling, is I've been unable to rest, which means I've been dealing with all of this shit that's been happening in my life, like general crazy stresses, like how to survive during COVID as an entertainer, and how the fuck do I speak, and not being able to eat solid food, and having incredible mouth pain and a horrible gap tooth, and lisping, and not being able to do my job well, fostering a child, losing my dog, money troubles because of all of this shit. All of that shit compounded, and I wasn't able to fucking process it because I'm also not sleeping. And yeah, I just got to a point where I was like not acknowledging how sick I was, and my body shut me down. And I'm doing a lot better now, but obviously I had to let the team go. Rosie's moved on. She has a new job now. She's doing great, and it was not her fault at all that any of this happened. I just got really, really sick, and that's what happens when you run a small business and the guy that runs the business can't do it. It all shuts down. I can't replace me. I am the product that we sell. So unfortunately, I had to let the whole team go. So it is just me now. I've spoken to Keelan. He might jump on the podcast every now and then, but I can't pay him for it. So it'll just be if he wants to do it, if he feels like doing it. If Patreon picks up, we might be able to make that permanent. That's why I'm really pushing Patreon and all that kind of stuff. And that's what's been happening. But the upside of it all is I'm really refreshed. And I think for the first time in a really long time, probably since Tasmania, I'm like excited to make things. But unlike Tasmania, I'm in an environment where I can actually make things that I really am proud of, because Tassie was like, I was excited and it was cool and it was great, but it was like survival mode. We were in this shitty little house and all we had was a green screen and the podcast didn't look very good, and we didn't know anyone. And we were in a small town and we couldn't do too much, but what we did, I'm really proud of, but it didn't like look amazing, or it wasn't exactly what I wanted to make, other than a couple of videos and some stand-up stuff. But now I'm in this position where it's all me, so I can really put effort into how things look, how things are edited, writing and scripting and all that kind of stuff. And while I'm probably going to be less consistent with all of the other videos, the podcast I'm going to put a big effort into doing every Sunday. While I'll probably be less consistent with all of the other type of stuff that I'm doing, I do think the quality is going to go up a lot, because it's just all done by me and I can do it exactly how I want, and I'm not going to like stress myself on pumping out stuff twice a week or sometimes fucking 7 to 10 times a week like I was when I had a whole team, because we could do that. So it was very much like a mad rush to get to the end of the pipeline and put shit out and put shit out and put shit out, which is great. But when I was sick, it was just stressful. And also I was sick, so I couldn't do a good job. Now I can actually fucking speak again. I obviously still feel pretty bad because of the sleep apnea hasn't gotten any better, but I do feel better than what I was feeling with all of that shit in my mouth. If I had my time again, I just would have disappeared for the 6 months that I had the shit in my mouth, and I just would have, what I probably should have done in hindsight is I probably should have let everybody go before the surgery, and then I probably wouldn't be in a more dire situation. As it's not that wouldn't have been better. That just would have been better financially, I guess. But yeah, I'm here. I'm doing better. And I'm not going to fucking talk your ear off about all the shit that I've been going through and have gone through, because I've already done so many fucking videos about it and I feel like I'm whinging. And also the Luke and Lewis ending really, really sucked. I really didn't want to do that, and it really felt... It was really like just I think a very bad thing to have to happen. There was obviously no falling out, and it did have to end, but it was just like, oh, another thing that like COVID and my health issue has has like taken from me. Man, I'm losing my voice. I'm not used to talking this much. I haven't done this podcast for 4 months. But yeah, the Luke and Lewis show ending, because, we lost the studio and my surgeries and Luke's touring and all that kind of stuff. It was just like, oh man, another thing taken from me, when I felt like Luke and Lewis was the one thing through all of this that was going either okay or well throughout all of this, like COVID and stuff. Obviously during COVID, it wasn't going that great because it was Zoom and it wasn't very good. But when we came out of that, it was good. But then, it just had to end, and that was fucking awful, because it was like, oh man, I loved this. It was like my baby. I loved it so much, and it just had to stop. And there's nothing that I could do about that. And it wasn't like a failure either, because I can deal with failure. If I do something and it fucks up and it doesn't work, I'm like, oh, well, I've learned from that. But it was just like another thing that had to stop or didn't go well or ended due to no fault of my own or Luke's. It just had to. And that sucks. And that really kind of hurt, because I think that was the only thing that was going well enough for me to get a lot of creative satisfaction out of it during all of this time. Because even though I couldn't speaking shit, at least someone on the show could. So it was like kind of funny. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and that's what's happened. And I'm feeling better now, but I'm just going to take my time and I'm just going to do what I can do. So at the moment, I'm starting very slowly. I'm just going to do main channel videos and the podcast. And then I'm going to see what that feels like. I'm going to see, can I do this well? Can I do this consistently? Can I add something more? Can I add in stand-up clips? Can I add in podcast clips? Can I add in real talk? That kind of stuff. I'm just going to start slow, ramp up. And if I figure out, all right, I can't do all of these things, I'm going to pull it back. And I'll let you guys know. But for now, just expect Spearhead Sundays every single Sunday. And the main channel videos, hopefully at least once a week, maybe more, maybe less. I'll just do whatever I can. And what do you think of the new set?